What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and I'm once again joined by Tyler. In this video, we want to discuss why there needs to be a Star Wars Episode 10. Now, there's a lot of ways we can discuss this, and we probably will, hit a few points on this movie. There's a lot of talk of if we would ever get an Episode 10, and I think generally we're going to discuss why, especially because of the ending. This is going to be a spoiler-filled video. There kind of needs to be another, whether you like it or not, and we can talk about that too. There needs to be another Star Wars movie that comes after 9, whether it be, again, the ending, whether it be a lot of, really, the plot holes that the ending actually brings up, but also just the fact, and we can talk about, like, the money-wise, too. It does, I think, personally, I think Tyler agrees as well, and has thought this for a while, like, it makes sense to bring these characters back and to continue this, especially when we start to enter this new age of Star Wars, where we don't really know what's going to happen, especially with money-wise with these next 3 movies, whatever they end up being. If they're big failures, this could definitely, elevate the importance of bringing back all of these main characters, Rey, Finn, Poe, for an Episode 10. So I think it's very, very likely. I'm going to hand over to Tyler. Tyler, based off the ending of 9, which we can talk about some of the things that need kind of a resolution, but why do you believe there needs to be a 10?
Problem with Episode 9 is they overall, did they do a good job, wrapping it all up? No. But I mean, there's some things that they did do a good job with. But one of the big things is, they mentioned a number of times that any of these new characters can be brought back. They can appear in future movies. The fact that Finn is Force sensitive, they made that extremely clear in The Rise of Skywalker. It's almost not fair to his character because, to leave him, not even there in the end and not even to see, does he want to be trained? Does he want to be a Jedi? What does he want to do about it? They just kind of leave it up in the air, which I guess is okay, but when you really look at his character and the character arc that they started for him, but he never really got anywhere other than yelling Rey's name. I think it would be nice to see what Rey does now that she knows who she is, and what the Skywalkers have done for her, taking on their name, believing in herself, being able to connect to the Jedi. What will Rey do now? What will Finn do? I want to know. I don't care so much about what Poe does. Maybe he goes back to being a spice runner. I don't know. And the other thing, too, and this is the biggest reason why, and I think it's a solid reason, is, when we left, or not even left, after you watch Episode 6, and you're like, okay, they're partying, little teddy bears, they're all having fun, there's peace in the galaxy, it's all cool, the war's over, the Empire is defeated, it's awesome now. But then we find out, obviously, from, The Mandalorian, that, well, it actually wasn't so awesome. It was still pretty bad, actually. The Empire was they wanted vengeance in a way. They weren't very happy that the Emperor was defeated, and they wanted to continue it. There were still the Imperial soldiers. They were still doing stuff. So we know that it wasn't that great. It didn't just kind of end. So because the reason I'm saying that is I would assume that because the First Order was so much bigger, mainly because they not only was it the First Order, but then they decided to throw in the Final Order that basically made the First Order, I don't know where it went, but it went somewhere, tens of thousands of troops and weapons and everything. So Ben Solo, the Supreme Leader, he's gone. The Emperor, who was the head of the Final Order, he's gone. And they just have all the ships just kind of falling out of the sky. Awesome. But I guarantee you they weren't all in the ships. On top of, what about the First Order? What did they do? The reason I'm saying that is, if the war is over, like they show it is in Episode 9, just like they showed that it was in Episode 6, but then we learned, hey, you know what? Really, the war wasn't over. I assume that it would still be the case after Episode 9. I assume that there would still be these, these loyalists to the First Order or the Final Order or both or whatever, to the Emperor, whatever. The fact that he was able to cheat death for a long time, being dead, possessing as a soul, possessing a dead body, but that's a whole other video. But, I assume that there'd be people who still support the Final Order, the First Order, and the Empire, and there's still going to be troops that carry it out. So, and again, my evidence is the Mandalorian. So I think I think it's dumb too to think that there's no more bad in the entire galaxy. It's just Rey. Literally, Rey's the only Jedi. She can't possibly be going to every single planet in the galaxy to defeat all the evil. I mean, literally, that can't be what's happened. It doesn't even make sense. In fact, I would even say that the majority of the galaxy that the First Order was in doesn't even know. It'd probably take 10 or 20 years for them to all finally figure out what's happened. Maybe they would assume something bad happened, but they don't really know because it's a galaxy. There's so many different systems that they'd still be existing. So I guess what I'm saying is I think it would be kind of nice to see what is she going to do about it now? Is she going to make a Jedi temple? Is she and Finn going to work together to start a new Jedi temple or start a new Jedi order and train people? Because obviously the Force still does exist in people. And we saw that at the end of Episode 8 with the little kid in the broom. So, the Force is out there. But because the Force is out there, there's always going to be light, which means that there's always going to be dark. Because a lot of times the people who turn dark is because they were light at some point. So there's always going to be that kind of conflict of light and dark. So I do kind of want to see, what is she going to do when the threat is not as big? Maybe it's not the Emperor taking over the entire galaxy, but maybe it's someone who is decently powerful in the Force and had a lot of bad stuff happen to him, and they were maybe hiding out or whatever, and maybe because of what Rey did or whatever, made them turn to the dark side, and what they could come up with these stories, but I just want to see what is she going to do when it's up to her, because now it is up to her to bring, not balance to the Force, but to bring about the new Jedi Order. We should see what that looks like. And I kind of feel like, because, they're like, oh, well, George always saw it as 9 films. That's weird, because he ended, he did Revenge of the Sith and didn't make 7, 8, or 9, so I don't know, but actually he sold it. So I don't know if he really saw it as 9, but it's another, okay, whatever. But I do think that they do need, and I actually am someone, and I think the writer himself said that The Rise of Skywalker really needed to be 2 films. I agree with that. I think they do need to do at least 3 more films to really show, maybe not a proper ending, because you can leave it open, and I feel like leaving it open is the best way, but that doesn't mean you introduce a bunch of questions at the end of the film or by the end of the film, and you're just like, okay, and now think about it. Well, no. Because you're showing us in one of your shows that no one can stop talking about because of cute baby Yoda, that the war isn't over. So I feel like we need to see, what does that look like now? I think it makes sense to continue it. And then, again, then you just kind of leave it open where these things will always be happening, but at least now Rey knows what she's going to do about it, or, however they want to go about that.
Totally agree. I think when you watch the movie, and part of the reason why I want to see a future for especially these characters is I haven't given up the hope for them. And I think that in 9, you see JJ do possibly the best he could do based off of the situation. You have to imagine, or at least I imagine, with 9, a lot of the stuff would have just been put in 8, and then a lot of the not really a redemption, but what comes next, what really pays it off, that would come in 9. So I like to think of it as these characters haven't gone through nearly enough. They haven't really been fleshed out as well as they should have, but they tried to be. Even Rey, who we all very much complained about going into 9, I don't think she was a good character in 9. We even made a video specifically about that, but I do see that they tried to do something with a character arc with her person. And I think just the way you leave off this movie with them all in their different spots, you leave a lot of characters just with no really resolution or no, you have no idea what they're going to do in the future. Like Tyler said, like Finn, okay, so he just has Force sensitivity, right? And I guess he was going to tell Rey that, even though he probably also loves her, but we're going to forget that happened. like, what are they going to do with his character? What are they going to do with Rey, who's now got the power of the Jedi? She's got the new lightsaber, like all these things. She's just kind of there. Like, that's it. And I get it. I mean, you could argue they left 6, like they're all just partying, and like, where do you really go with that? And you kind of just assume, Luke would obviously start a Jedi temple, and Leia and Han would end up getting together. Like, you can imagine those things, and that's fine. I've said it in past videos as well. I just see this as a better opportunity because you know what you have. I know that they have potential with these characters and with this idea that just was not fulfilled here. You also have how bad things can get for Star Wars over the next couple of years. There's been talks of them saying, some people saying like there's not going to be a 10, but there hasn't been flat out like across the board people saying absolutely not. Even some of the characters I think 100% would return. Obviously, like, paychecks are a thing, and they would obviously come back if given the right amount. So I think if you look at these next 3 movies that are going to come, you could see them do very much not good. And if they do like Solo level, if they do like 3, 4, 500,000, that just is not going to fly for a Star Wars movie in this day and age. So they may look at that and say, all right, well, we've got to do something. We've got to bring back not necessarily what worked so well for us, because it didn't, but then, there are people that like this trilogy. There's people that like this trilogy more than any others. There were people that liked 8. There were people that liked 9. It's not like those people don't exist, and it's not like people like Tyler and I wouldn't give movies chances, right? If they show us that they can do it enough, that we would go and actually watch their product. And or even if you want to look at it from like a channel perspective, of course we're going to cover something that big, so we would watch it. So there's lots of reasons why 10 needs to happen. I think whether or not they want it to, I think it could be forced. They could actually be forced to do it down the line. Again, depending on the success or failure of other movies. But again, like, these actors, these actresses, they're all young. Poe, Oscar Isaac is a little bit older, but especially Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, they're in their mid to late 20s. That's not that bad. I mean, that's around the same age that Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher were at the end of 6. So, I think they could do with them what they didn't do with the original cast, is bring them back 10, 15 years later. They're still young enough to do stuff. You can still definitely expand upon their story, but they're not too old where they can't do anything anymore. They actually probably could have done more with Luke and Leia. It's just obviously RJ hates Luke, and we know what happened to Carrie Fisher, so that's just kind of just what happens, right? That's just a circumstance that happened. But I think it's got a very good chance, and I think it absolutely, especially based off the ending of 9, it needs to happen. So guys, let us know in the comments below, what do you think? Do you think we'll see these characters return with an episode 10? If so, when do you think we would get it? Let us know. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel podcast now. Hit the bell icon. As we've been doing over these past couple weeks, we're covering Star Wars to death. We've been talking about a lot of different really properties with Star Wars, so if you guys are into that, you've definitely come to the right place. Thank you all so much for watching, and we hope to see you on the next video.